Hey, welcome everybody to Everyday Asphalt. My name is Jim Warren with TxDOT. I'm glad you guys are here. The purpose of this program is to go a little bit deeper in the areas of materials, design, construction, and maintenance. We post all these programs on our YouTube site. If you go to YouTube and type in TxAPA or Texas Asphalt Pavement Association, our site will come up. We have a lot of videos on there. Right on the front page there is a playlist for Everyday Asphalt, and the latest versions of all these will be in there, and we post one every month, typically the day after these programs air, which is on the third Thursday of every month at 3 o'clock Central. So welcome everybody. We also take these programs and we strip out the video and we post them on an audible version on Spotify and on the Apple Podcast series. And so you can download those and listen to them as you're working out or as you're driving down the highway. So appreciate that. So let's get started. Today we're going to focus on the brand new heavy duty asphalt pavement design guidance manual and a whole bunch of stuff that comes with that. And from the TxDOT Maintenance Division with us today is Chris Henry. Welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
And Ruben Carrasco.
Yes,
welcome,
sir.
guys.
Nice to see you.
And glad to have you guys here and looking forward to talking about this.
Awesome.
But first, for those who don't know you guys, give us a little bit of an introduction. How long you been with TxDOT? What have you done? All your stuff.
So again, my name is Chris Henry.
Yep.
I am TxDOT's Deputy Director of the Maintenance Division.
Okay.
I'm a 20-year TxDOT employee,
20, okay.
and I'm in a division now. I was in another division a few years ago.
Okay.
But the overwhelming majority of my time, about 16 of my 20 years, has been spent in districts.
Okay.
So I was in the Wichita Falls District for 10 years.
Is that where you started?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
First 10 years of my career in the Wichita Falls District. Went through another division after that, and then decided my heart was out in operations. So I made that sidestep to be the San Angelo area engineer.
Okay.
Then the director of maintenance in the Beaumont district.
Well, you've been around.
I have been the driest place in
To
the
the
state.
wettest place.
The wettest place.
I was
in the
just thinking that. Yeah.
And now I like it right in the middle.
Right
here.
in the middle.
Yes,
Awesome.
sir. So
Good
here in
deal.
Austin as the deputy in maintenance division.
Awesome. 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 Ruben?
So I'm on lucky number 13 right now, 13 years with TxDOT
Okay.
now. Yes, I started in the Materials and Test Division when it was part of the Construction Division at the time. So Materials Lab, specifications, things of that nature. After a while, I decided to go to a district.
Okay.
I was in Central Design for a bit.
Okay.
I was in the area office in construction, inspections.
So you've done the tour. Okay.
And which, for me, that was the best thing, to do. Just see everything, a little bit of everything. Then I went to San Angelo District as well.
Oh, you
was doing traffic in the San Angelo District. So I've been with Austin District, San Angelo District, Materials and Test, and now with Maintenance Division. Now I'm the branch manager for Payment Analysis and Design.
Wow. You guys been around.
Yes, sir.
But I guess as big as TxDOT is, and I guess there's no way to explain it other than you got to kind of go do all those different things to understand your particular job better. If like, in maintenance, hey, I need to know a little bit about construction. I need to know about materials, and I need to know about design. Well, design is part of maintenance, but I mean, I just don't know how you could really be effective if all I was doing just was this one thing.
It's a big
nowadays.
puzzle. It's a lot of pieces to a big puzzle.
A lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people. Well, welcome. So today we're going to talk about the heavy duty pavement design guidance document, and I want to kind of go. We want to reel back a little ways, probably almost 9 months, maybe better part of a year now. When the first idea came up, can you kind of walk us through how this got started?
Absolutely. I think it was closer to that 1.5 year range.
Oh, has it been?
About the time I came from the Beaumont District to the Maintenance
Time flies
Division.
when you're having fun.
Yes, sir. It's been a good time, too. So, about a 1.5 years ago, came from Beaumont to the Maintenance Division.
Okay.
And at that time, the Maintenance Division was standing up this heavy-duty pavement design guide development.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Harold, you're very much aware TxDOT's in a good partnership with TxAPA and the AGC.
It's awesome. It's an
Yes,
awesome
sir.
relationship.
And one of the committees out of that is the Asphalt Pavement Quality Initiatives
Yep.
Committee.
Yep.
And this concept came up as the brainchild out of that committee.
Yep.
So a work group was developed of TxDOT's district and division personnel.
Mm-hmm.
You've got folks from TTI, our
Yep.
partners at
Yep.
Texas Transportation
Yep.
Institute, and then industry.
You had some contractors in there as well?
Yes,
Yep.
sir. Contractors and
Yep.
TxAPA
Yep.
folks. And all of that's to say those folks came together and started the process of putting together this design guide.
Mm-hmm.
The first stab at it, I believe, was out of a partnership between TTI and TxDOT out of Jenny Lee's group and
Mhm.
Ruben's group. Put
Yep.
together that first draft of the document, and through iterative meetings to review and revise and talk shop, talk details, it's gotten to the point where it is today, where it's a full guide, full 60-page guide, but then you've got a more detailed, more potent 8-page guide that sort of drives home the
Yeah,
point.
that was discussed at TxAPA's annual here just recently, and Jenny gave a presentation on that, and she did a great job, and really wanted to kind of get in here and talk a little bit about that and get it out, get the word out that it's coming. And there's a lot, and now this is not just one piece. There's a lot of pieces to this thing, and I think that's the thing that you couldn't just say, well, here, without the rest of the stuff.
Correct.
And so that to me is, I mean, that just shows you how big of an issue this is, right?
It was a huge undertaking
Mm-hmm.
in a relatively short period of time. Something like this usually takes longer to put
Yeah,
together. But I believe the key to the success of this development was a very strong working group.
Mm-hmm.
It was very productive. Everybody was bringing something different to the table. And I think most importantly, everybody was willing to collaborate and entertain different perspectives. So I think that's what made this work complete in short amount of time and really high quality. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, well, James was cracking the whip on this, which was good. In order to get this thing out to coincide with FES 23 and everything else, we kind of needed to catch up a little bit because that had been underdeveloped a lot longer. And so this just helped kind of the whole thing kind of pull itself back together. So what's the objective of this document from your perspective? What are we trying to do?
So we're trying to address and the issue that we see every day in Texas with increased truck traffic, overloaded trucks. We're fortunate to have a hefty energy sector, in the state, but that comes with a lot of traffic, a lot of trucks. And we're trying to come up with a design that can perform a long period of time without having to close the roadway for recurrent maintenance often. So that was the key objective of this working group. Put something together that can address that.
Adding to that, Jim, so we can put a road together out of just about anything. And the real key behind this guide for me is that there's nothing new in here. Right? It's just putting together the pieces, the tools in our toolbox for different kinds of pavement designs, pavement approaches into a new way where we're getting a lot longer design life out of it under pretty extreme circumstances. Ruben said it, the energy sector, while it's a fantastic driver of the economy, and we do appreciate everything that it brings to the table.
They put a whop on the roads.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this heavy-duty pavement design guide really just puts the pieces of the puzzle together in a different way where we're getting more design life. We're getting more bang for our buck when we're investing in these roads, and we're having to work on them a whole lot less in the meantime during their design life.
Gotcha. The thing about this to me was we go from 200 easels to 200 million easels nowadays. We're talking about. I guess Mike Ariano's talking about even more in Austin, or whatever the number is. But we can't design the pavements the same way all the way across. And there's got to be a point, and the group is kind of identified that, and we'll get to that in a second, of, you know, hey, up to this point, do it the regular way.
Right.
But when you come to this point, now we got to put the belt and the suspenders on to make sure that we're covered. We've got all our I's dotted and our T's crossed when we get to this point to say, hey, now we're in a different animal. Now we're not just talking about, you know, 10% trucks. Now we're talking about 30% trucks, you know, and some of the data that we saw that was developed from some of the WIM sites
Correct.
was scary.
It was just eye-opening.
Yeah, it was just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And those are big numbers.
Yeah.
And that's it's in the guide. It's in the guide, and some of those. So I think some of that data is in there. What they saw was very significantly higher easels, higher traffic volumes, higher overloaded trucks, which a lot of people don't even really think about sometimes, is the damage of an overloaded truck compared to a regular truckload.
Yeah, it's exponential, you know.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, like you said, it's not linear. It's whoop.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them out there.
Yes.
And so we don't have enough troopers to catch them all, because I mean, you look at the road coming from 35 coming out of the south coming up, and it's a line. It's a line, and out west and up in the east and everywhere. We're up talking to some folks up in East Texas not too long ago, and just their energy sector is lumber, you know, and you know it's not hard to get an overloaded lumber truck.
Yeah.
You know,
And
in that
we're
process.
talking energy sector, but we're also addressing border crossings.
Yeah.
Freight corridors.
Yep.
Places like you said, logging industry. Places that they have like heavy quarry activity. So it's heavy traffic overall.
Yeah, I mean, right out, you know, half a mile from here.
Right.
Absolutely.
We got a quarry and 2 asphalt plants and a cement plant,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
all within, you know, half a mile of each other. And so because I come that way in the morning, and I just see the trucks
Yeah. everywhere.
You know, they're coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out, and just going, these roads are taking quite the beating.
Yes, sir.
Quite the beating. So what's the definition? I know that was one of the things, and we'll put this slide up for you guys to see it when in the program here. But what's the definition of heavy duty? How did we define heavy duty in it?
So as you remember, this was the first task for the group. Define what heavy duty payment
And
is.
this took like 3 meetings.
It did.
3 or 4.
It did. and
back and forth, back and forth.
But thinking back on that time is each one of us had a different perspective of what a heavy duty payment should be, because we had people that were experts in materials, design, construction, research. Right. So we had different ideas of what a heavy duty payment should be. I think the objective was should be a pavement that can last 30 years or more in service without the need of considerable rehabilitation or reconstruction. Only, you know, renewing the top,
just fixing the top,
on occasion. And so that was the main objective. But now, how do we define that? And the approach that we came up with is, well, heavy duty pavement can be a combination of different things. And that's when we came up with the checklist. And that is 5 factors that can define a heavy duty pavement. And one of them is the location, right? So we talk energy sector,
borders,
border crossing, freight corridors, logging, things like that. And then easels, equivalent single axle loads. So how many millions of easels that road is projected to carry over the design life? What percentage of those easels are trucks? And then, most importantly, we talked about this, is what percentage of those trucks are overloaded? Because that's when we see a lot of the accelerated damage. And then the fifth criteria there was the overall cost for the construction of that pavement. So it's five different criteria, and we thought, okay, if at any given point a project meets 3 of those 5, then we can consider that a heavy-duty pavement design.
So you're going, designer goes, here's my roadway, I'm looking at it, I go through the checklist, I go, yep, nope, yep, boom.
Correct.
Now I'm thinking heavy duty. Okay, perfect. I love it. I love it. So it's not just a matter of the pavement being thicker necessarily. We're also, I guess we can kind of get into that a little bit. It's the layers that we choose, both from the bottom all the way to the top.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, and there's been some work showing the impact of stabilization in those lower layers and how important that is to the longevity of the pavement. And it's not just, whatever, it's engineered from the bottom all the way to the top, because not really going to talk about perpetual pavements here, but the whole concept of that is to limit the strain on the top of the subgrade and bottom of the asphalt, so you never exceed those parameters, which is going to cause damage down there. So the only thing you're ever going to worry about is re-roofing it. And I think that to me is kind of the key principle. And I think a lot of those same principles kind of track. We're not really calling these perpetual, but a perpetual pavement could do
fit
this.
A heavy-duty pavement.
Yeah, it could be a heavy-duty pavement. Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool. So you mentioned 2 different documents,
Correct.
right? So give us the nickel tour, and again, we don't have them here right now, but what's the difference between the short one and the long one? And if you can kind of talk about what's in the long one as far as how it's laid out, because it's a pretty hefty document. Again, you guys, all hands to you guys did a lot of work, and in a very short period of time. And there was a lot of ciphering done behind the scenes. It's not a matter of just typing words. You did a lot of data gathering and a lot of engineering behind the scenes on that, which was, I don't think a lot of people understand that. There's a lot of work there. So give us kind of the overview.
Yeah. So let me. Do you want to go over the?
Yeah.
Let
me quickly go over just general concept, because it's a overarching theme in the maintenance division for sure. But so the longer document, the 60-page document, is the comprehensive look at all the engineering, all the analysis, all the design, the procedure, the criteria, everything. It is the encyclopedia of the entire concept and the process of how to actually design.
It's the whole work product.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
got it.
At the end of reading that document, a user should have a comprehensive understanding of how to design or identify a roadway that warrants the design, but then actually design a heavy-duty pavement.
Okay.
The 8-page document is kind of that Cliff's Notes version. It's the designer that's sitting down and needs to get a quick understanding, and the planners that need a quick understanding of what a heavy-duty pavement design concept is. We can plan for that at the initial phases of planning and estimating projects.
So it's got that table in there at the trigger. I read this and I see the trigger, and then I'll overlay that on my job, and I go, oh, this one fits.
Correct.
Now, here, somebody get in detail. So we got some more homework to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
I like those quick guides to help us understand concepts and put them into action quickly. And if we get into the design process, or even some odd places within the planning process, we have that longer guide to rely on to get down to the details to actually executing one of these.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The marching orders at the beginning were, we want something clear and simple. But this is not even simple, or it's clear now, but it's not a simple process. So we try to have all of the background information in that long document, so we can reference back on how were these decisions made, how was this criteria spelled out or determined. That's where the longer document contains all of that background information. So So yeah, the eight page document. That's what I want to see. That's what everybody wants to see.
The Cliff Notes version.
Yes,
sir.
exactly.
I got that. But I mean, you think about it. I mean, we're trying to design something for 30 years, right? That's a career
Correct.
for people in TxDOT, right? 30 years or whatever the number is. I mean, that's a long time, and we got to do it right. We gotta like, just throw something together. We gotta get the plans out. Well, wait a second. This is important. We need to be looking at this. I mean, representing the asphalt industry is, hey, we want to make sure we do it right.
Right.
Last thing we want to have happen is either through a design issue or a materials issue or God forbid a construction issue, we go build a pavement and all of a sudden it's got an issue with it early on in its life. Well, that doesn't make anybody look good. It just makes everybody look bad.
Yes, sir.
And so what we got to make sure is as we kind of go through this process, we're covering all those bases, and I think this is a really good start of trying to do that.
Yeah, I think that one of the key elements here is have a consistent approach to designing these pavements, and we went through the task of considering different criteria, different scenarios, and at least giving the designer a level playground as to, okay, when I'm going to consider heavy duty pavement, I can start with this design. And then at that point, we know that every district has different materials, different things. So it is tailored for project specific, material specific after that point. But we give the first or the base design to the designers at the beginning after they consider the table that you were talking about earlier,
right?
Different criteria.
Right.
At least that gives some consistency, and we know that from the very beginning we have a basic design that it's probably going to work. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit with district-specific information and materials.
But I think in the design guide itself, with the way FPS is laid out, you select the layers you want to choose, and you can select there were 7 different layers, and one of them is customizable. But if you just select a regular asphalt, whatever one, you may not capture everything you need to. And I think this, going through all that and giving you this is what the sections ought to look like, now at least I know where to start, as opposed to maybe leaving out something that's really important.
Yes.
And then go, well, it maybe met the criteria, but it passed the design, but maybe it's not going to pass the performance. And so I think that's the thing that we got to make sure that we do in the process. So what else is in the big one?
So in the, we call it the work group version of the document.
Okay.
So we have literature review. We looked at similar efforts done by other DOTs, payment manuals throughout the country, research. We did a sensitivity analysis of FPS 23 to understand, okay, if we start designing these, what are the potential items or key information in the program that will trigger either a very, very extra conservative design or under design. So we try to control all of those. We have life cycle cost considered there because this is a very thick pavement, so it's going to be expensive, but we're using premium materials because we want to make sure that they work under extreme circumstances, traffic, loading, climate. We also have in the big document, or the working group document, the thresholds, the methodology used to select such thresholds. And then we end up with recommendations and conclusions. It's chapter 7, which is mostly similar to the synthesized version, that the 8-page one. So the 8-page one gives you, the summary of all the efforts that the group put together in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So
I can't believe it's been a year and a half. Wow, crazy. It's crazy. So, I mean, you've already talked about it. Are there any specific takeaways on this that we need to I want to talk about here?
So I think for me these are specialized pavements.
Okay.
These are not traditional flexible pavements, so we need to put a lot of thought and consideration on where we're going to use them. That's one. The other one is we have specific guidance for how do we evaluate these pavements ahead of time. So there's a lot of evaluation that takes place before.
That's a really good point.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's a really good
we
point.
use non-destructive testing. Equipment that we know how to operate FWDs, DCPs, GPRs, all of the non-destructive tests. We also need to do some sampling to understand our site conditions and see where we are, how we are starting in the design process. The other key element is for all of these, we require site-specific traffic information. Those are the portable WIMs. So that's something the maintenance division we have available for the districts, and we collect traffic counts, individual axle weights, percent trucks, so everything that we need to ensure that we are accounting for that critical input, which is traffic. We provide a criteria on what materials should be used for these. We talk premium materials. We're looking at a very specific layout of the different layers.
The layers, yep.
From the bottom up.
Yep.
And what are the thresholds that are expected depending on your site conditions. This is subgrade support. And then one thing that I really liked about this process is that we are providing guidance not only for new construction, but also for rehabilitation, which I think is going to be the bulk of these pavements. So we're talking about full depth reclamation process to start from the base layer. And again, this is something we've done a lot on the maintenance division with the in-house FDR program, and so we feel very comfortable with the product that we're putting out. And then we're utilizing our new Texas AME program to design these pavements. So traditional flexible pavements, we use FPS. The new version of FPS 23, has the Texas AME built into it,
right?
And that is what we're using to design this pavement. So
awesome.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add, Ruben makes a really keen observation that the overall pavement design is really complex. It's really unique in the way that we're putting all this together. But I want to drive home that each one of these layers in this pavement design is not new or complex, right? It's just the usual suspects, the usual tools in the toolbox. It's just in this case to get that overall complex pavement design that is so durable, so resilient, and will last this 30 years without any major maintenance. It's kind of a new way to put them together. And just to quickly cover that, we've got a slide that I think we can show to the viewers to help understand how these layers are put together. But you've got your usual natural ground subgrade. If this is a new construction or a full reconstruction, right, we're going to treat the subgrades, which is a normal process. We do that all the time. You've got either asphalt stabilized base or cement treated base. That is that next layer that we, again, do
building
that all the
some
time.
strength up.
Correct.
Yep.
Where it starts getting a little different is when you start piling the layers on top of that, right? We've got layers of, in this case, I think it's Super Pave C is the ideal mix that's serving as crack attenuation, crack mitigation, right? Keep that reflective cracking from making its way all the way up to the surface. Then you have a Super Pave B on top of that that's adding that substantial structure from there down.
The web of that design,
Absolutely, but that's where you're getting the overwhelming majority of your holding capacity, your pavement design capacity. And then above that, you've got an underseal, and then we've got a riding layer on top of that sacrificial layer. So all these tools in the toolbox are normal things that we use all the time in different ways on projects. But the crack attenuation, the super pave B to add that structure and prevent rutting. That's another concept there, that rut mitigation.
Yep.
All those things together in this way, making up that complex pavement design, is what's getting us the outcomes that we like.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anything in here that anybody's not accustomed to using.
Yeah, I think the only new stuff that's coming, the big advances right now are in some binder, some heavy,
Correct, yeah.
some high polymer binder type, the HPG binders, and the Austin district is got some projects and that they want to use on and have used them on right out here in Kyle. They've done some work and down to San Marcos, and there's some going on 130 as we speak out there in a PFC, and I know they've got some plans for some other ones. And this year, this was laid this thick. And most people say you can't lay asphalt in one lift. This is actually one lift. This was not a DOT project. This was in the contractor's yard.
Okay.
And so, but they used some of the extra binder from the trial section for the HPG project to build this section. And I asked them to. I said, I want you to mill out 6 inches, and I want to put 6 inches back. Because a lot of people say you can't do that. And we got density super quick, really fast. And Austin's supposed to be testing. I haven't seen the results back on this for FWD and stuff, but they actually cut it in half, and the bottom and the top basically almost got the same level of density, which was close to about 4% in place air voids, which is
It's good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Which is that's design, and so I think that's where you're going to see some change, some advances. I think long term, and now since we've finished the heavy duty pavement design, now we're in intersections. And right now we're starting to look at intersections, so which are a different design amongst themselves, because now the loading is different. When you get to an intersection, we'll probably do one of these on intersections when we get everything put together, because that's actually pretty interesting. And then the key thing there is, new construction. Okay, you got traffic control. No, you don't have traffic control because nobody's on the pavement. But when you're rehabbing pavements, what do we do? And we got to have something where we can get in, get the job done, do it right, and then get out without taking forever, in order to do that. And so I think that's maybe where we see some more advances, maybe some different materials long term in that process. But going back to what you said earlier, I wanted to kind of reiterate that I'm so glad that we're looking at what's underneath the roadway and doing the work. Because I hear this word, and whenever I hear these 2 words or 3 words, it always kind of makes me cringe a little bit. It's called a Google Earth design. When nobody goes out there and they just look at it from Google Earth, think, okay, it's from here to here, and it does not. Can't see 3D. You don't know what's under it. So we've got to figure out a way of getting out there and looking underneath that pavement, and make sure we have a good, strong foundation to build upon. Otherwise, we're just shaking our fist at the wind.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. And then, really isolating the traffic and getting a good understanding of the traffic. I know TxDOT, the traffic people do a great job, but the reality is a lot more miles than they got sensors. By having those WIM sensors on the job, that's where we saw some of those really interesting numbers. That were a little, kind of like, wow.
Yeah, and it is very complex to account for, traffic generators that are not, so a lot of them are new.
Yeah.
Right, so it's hard to account for those.
Yeah.
And then unless you have an actual physical sensor there to measure loads and you really just estimate.
Yeah.
So that's what the portable WIMS says we identified, okay, this is a key component for these designs. We need to have accurate traffic, accurate loads. And so it's very easy to install. We have a process down with our contract with TTI, and we're building more units. The districts are more and more getting familiar with it and requesting more locations. So I think it's been a great
I think that's going to help us. I think that's going to help us a lot. 'Cause I remember years ago we were talking to somebody about pavement designs and easels, and you design for 20 million easels, right? You know, over 20 years or whatever happened. And hopefully, if you've done all your math right and the worlds collide properly, that at 20 years you hit 20 million easels, right? And everything's okay, good. You still got a surfaceable pavement, you got to go do something. But I think in a lot of cases we're seeing 20-year loading in 10 years or 12 years. And all of a sudden, now we're starting to see stuff that's going wrong. It's like, well, this shouldn't be doing that. But we don't really have a sense of, oh my God, the traffic's going through the roof.
Yes.
Or this is now like the heavy-duty overload design runway that people are using, and they just wore the pavement out.
Yeah. And I think like Chris said, this is where the district's input and the district knowledge of the areas
Absolutely
becomes very important.
Yep.
Because they are the ones that know if they get some traffic data and they can see it, look at it and say, you know, I think it's a little different because I ride my roads. I know that this stretch of the road has a concrete plant, it has a quarry, it has that's where some of the trucks detour. So I think the districts do a very good job at knowing and understanding the roadways. So
good, awesome.
That's I think that is the best information that we can put that out there. But the districts are the ones that come up with the actual information that is key for this.
You got to rely on the locals to get that flavor of what's really happening. You can't do it from 200 miles away. Someone's got to have boots on the ground.
Correct.
Okay.
And when we rely on our traditional means of traffic data, that is at, I believe, a 2-year interval, right? You only have the benefit of your data could be 2 years old.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
As we have learned in the energy sector, around our ports, around our freight networks, things change very quickly and for no apparent reason, right?
Hey, let's go that way.
Yes, until we get out there and start looking around and realize we've got a new warehousing facility. The port is redirecting traffic to another route for non-oversized overweight
Sure.
traffic. We will often find out there boots on the ground. Our districts will figure out real quickly that something's changed.
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
where this is so critical. Ruben's team with the portable WIMs and the Wavetronics being able to get us that real-time data that is just in time, it's at the occurrence, and it pumps into the pavement design process immediately.
It slides right in. Yeah. I mean, I just look at around here last 2 years.
It's totally
I mean, 2 years ago there weren't all these tilt wall warehouses. Now they're everywhere.
Yes, sir.
You can't walk out the door without running into one. And so, that's all got traffic associated with building it, feeding it, hauling stuff out. I mean, and a lot of these roads around here, they're old, FM roads and, rural roads. And now they just got beat up.
Yes, sir.
It's like, it's like going in the ring with Mike Tyson, and me. And it's like, I wouldn't go very far, but, yeah, it's just a big deal. So let's talk. I mean, we still got some more stuff to talk about, but I want to kind of like put a wrap on this one. So what's the time frame for release? What's going on with this? Kind of walk us through the other pieces as well, as to when can I get this? How can I get this? When this is going to be available, and what else is wrapped up into this?
So, like I mentioned, FPS 23. The new version of FPS that we roll it out to the districts. FPS now has this different component in Texas AME. It's an optional check for the districts now. We rolled that out in a couple months ago. We had some training, some workshops with districts. We sent out the guidance for the heavy duty pavements. We want the districts to get familiar with it, start looking at it, playing with it, asking questions.
Sure.
And at the same time, we're updating our manuals, the payment manual, and then the FPS 23 user guide. We need to have a process where the revisions to the payment manual are checked by FHWA. So we're thinking,
syncs up.
Yeah, we're thinking beginning of the year, we'll be ready to post the FPS 23 online for everybody to access.
Okay, great.
Along with the user's guide and then the heavy duty payment guidelines.
Okay, we probably need to be thinking about doing some sort of training and rollout. I'm sure you guys are already having that discussion internally, but we want to make sure we get industry, we get the consulting industry in there as well, because there's a lot of consultants designing TxDOT pavements now, and the industry wants to know what's going on too. I'm amazed sometimes as to the level of depth our guys. It's not just about turning the asphalt drum. They want to know what's going on, and how these things are put together, and all that, and why this layer is here and why that layer is there, why that's important. And I think that's important for everybody, that as we get into this thing some more and as we move forward with this, we educate everybody. Everybody develops the knowledge base and they learn why these things are important. Not just this is what you got to do, but why do we have this layer in here now? We didn't have that in here before. Why do we have this layer in here now? And they go, oh, okay, I get it now. And so to me, I think that's going to be a big lift for next year.
Yeah, it is.
So
we know it's going to be challenging, but we have a good plan to roll this out, and it's a step process. And like any process, if we need to dial it back and revise to make it better, we will.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything kind of hinges right now on that Texas ME rollout. When we get that nailed down and it's out there and questions have been asked, we're maintenance division has been really good in the past, and will continue to deliver webinars, deliver trainings, use our partners at TxAPA and TTI. We can do our own trainings. We've got a lot of resources at our disposal. And at the end of the day, for everybody that's designing a heavy-duty pavement, we'll make sure they have the proper training, documentation, and support from us, since it is our own internal concept.
So doors open when you guys want to come back here, or whoever you want to bring back the next time, and we're going to talk about that. We can certainly do another one as part of that. Won't be certainly all of it, but if we can help you guys get the word out, and when we're ready to rock and get into some details. You've mentioned FPS 23 a couple times. Okay. Obviously it's the revision of FPS 21, right? So the front end of 20, if I'm correct, the front end of 21 is the same as 23, right?
That is correct.
But the real key thing is this analysis tool. So there's the thin part, and then there's the old ME tool, and then there'll be the TxME analysis tool. And I've seen a little bit of that, and it's a lot different than the old ME check. There's a lot more stuff in there.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that, and how the heavy duty, you mentioned the loading stuff fits into that, but what else is in that design check?
So when we were discussing about the revisions for FPS, it was a conversation that it was interesting, because we have the highest condition scores ever. So we know as an agency,
you're right at 90.
Right,
I mean that's amazing.
I think
we're doing
something right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we started this effort with that in mind, because you don't want to mess up something that is working.
You don't want to go down.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give designers more tools to improve their designs. That's where Texas ME comes in. So FPS takes care of making sure that we have enough structure to protect that subgrade under that traffic. And the designs will give you generalized materials, right? But with Texas ME, you can, now that you know, okay, how much structure you need to support that traffic, now you start tweaking and say, well, you know what, we are using 7622 on the top, so that is going to improve my performance in terms of rotting or cracking. And another big part of Texas ME is that we gather a bunch of climate data from the weather stations.
That's right. It's got almost a weather module in it.
Right. And that accounts for rain, for temperature swings, averages for the year, because we all know down the coast very different than the Panhandle. So the conditions are different. So Texas ME will account for some other aspects other than just thickness design for the pavement. So now the designers can see, okay, if I change my materials quality, how much improvement in rutting I'm getting, or total fatigue cracking, for example, or how soon am I expecting that? So it's a lot more project-specific, district-specific information that is used to leverage or to take advantage of the better materials, high quality materials.
Gotcha. So it can, because the old one couldn't do that unless you change the modulus, right?
Right.
I mean, you could tweak the modulus, but I think this has got a lot more finesse to it. And it's got the models are much better.
Yeah. So I can probably say the very experienced pavement engineers can use FPS by itself and come up with a outstanding design. Texas ME, it helps a little bit more because it has individual models for the different materials.
Okay.
So you don't have to have years and years of experience with specific materials to have an idea how they're going to perform. We're already modeling that for you.
Okay.
So.
And we need that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you look around, and I'm meaning no disrespect to anybody, but a lot of our pavement designers are, they're not 20, 30-year people. I mean, they're pretty new. And so I think the more we can, and that's part of this whole APPIP thing that we've been talking about, is trying to get people up to speed, up to the level we need them quicker.
Yes.
Because we can't wait 10 years.
Yeah.
We got 6 months or a year to get them up there because they're doing the work that some of these 10 or 15-year people were doing before. It's just the nature has changed.
Yes.
And we got to be able to account for that. So I think having that safeguard in there by using FPS, the ME design check, the Tex ME design check, if that helps, amen.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It really is going to up our game across the agency.
Good.
For years, we've had kind of standard values with a lot of our materials that are based on a lot of assumptions. This helps us get down to very realistic, very accurate values for the San Angelo district.
Versus Beaumont.
Versus the Beaumont district, which are totally different.
Yeah.
They're totally different. So it just helps those folks get a little more realistic on their pavement designs, eliminate the amount of assumptions that we have to make, and get down to just realistic pavement designs so we build resilient roads.
That makes sense.
Yeah, one thing that Texas ME is allowing us now is we can calibrate the different models for different mixes depending on your aggregate quality from the sources that you get. Binders, we're talking about modified binders, right? So in the past, we don't have enough data built in to know how those are going to perform. So as we observe these new mixes perform in the field, we can start updating our models, calibrating them, and getting an accurate estimate for performance.
Which is great. It's not a one and done. This is not a, I guess, good for us, bad for you guys.
Yeah.
Because it's a continuing project. It's not going to end.
It'll be a living.
That's the right word. A living, breathing document.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, FPS 23, Tex ME, kind of roll out everybody, kind of January-ish or so. Got a few months for that. The pavement design guidance kind of part of that. Pavement manual's got to get updated. That's all going to be part of that. So, man, come January, February, you guys are going to do a big dump on. There's going to be a lot of stuff out there.
Yes, sir.
And so, stay tuned on that. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming in that. So, awesome. Thank you for explaining that to me. Chris, what else is on the agenda for maintenance division? Now, you guys cover a lot of stuff.
We do, right? And all the years I spent in districts, I had no idea just how much the maintenance division covered. So I've really been blessed to come to the division, learn what all we're doing. There's a lot of outstanding things. You said it a minute ago. We're right there at the cusp of our goal. We're just almost at a 90, and 90 statewide pavement scores.
Amazing.
It's absolutely
For big as
amazing.
Texas is,
yes,
that's
and we're number one in the nation, just across the board, every measurable performance metric. We are kind of at the top of our game, but we haven't met our goal. And I believe, and we're heading that way as a division, there's a lot of opportunity in to refine our planning, refine our execution a little bit. So next up on the maintenance division's radar is we're looking for technology, tools, training, everything we can to provide to our maintenance sections and our directors of maintenance and operations in the districts to help them plan their work just a little bit better and help them work that plan just a little bit better. And that's where FPS 23 and TxME come in. To help us build a little bit better pavement, we can get it over that threshold to 90.
I had a friend of mine who used to use those words: plan your work and work your plan.
Absolutely.
And that is so true. I mean, because it's easy to get kind of, the old squirrel, get deflected or get, whatever. But trying to stay your gauge, like whatever, 89.6 or whatever the number it is, but that's not static. I mean, it could go the other way.
It could.
And now you've got such a big program and you're so close, it actually takes a fair bit of effort to get you to to get over that hump.
It does.
Because it's that kind of diminishing return kind of deal. And so it's not an easy task to get that extra 0.5%.
Yes, sir.
As it would have been, 20 years ago when you're going from 70 or 80 to 85. I mean, that was a big jump, but it trying to get that little point is a lot of work. So
the focus right now is on making that goal. After that is going to be maintaining that.
Yeah, you got to keep once we get there, we got to keep it. So.
Absolutely. You got to. You got to. If you don't, I've seen where we hit it, and then they start pulling resources out, and it goes like this.
Yes.
And I can show you a graph. I was like, oh, we don't want to do that.
No,
we don't want to do that. Good deal. Let's kind of wrap up. We've spent a lot of time here, and 2 questions left. What does quality mean to each of you guys? What's when I say the word quality, what does quality mean to you?
I was thinking about this. To me is it's a series of collective decisions. And it applies to everything, but I'll talk pavements.
Okay.
You have a high quality pavement. You look at it makes an award, makes the takes up awards.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, you have to have a contractor that made the decision to do his best or her best at building that. You have to have someone who designed it that made the right decisions and made the decision to put out the best design he or she could. But without having a producer that, him or her made a decision to quality control, put out the best
every day,
material source that he or she could. So, to me, quality is just a series of people that made the decision to do their best.
Wow, I love it. That's great. How about you?
He stole my answer.
That's what I thought. You probably
Yeah.
gave it to him, make him look good. Always a good boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, but Ruben's making an outstanding point. I would look at it, maybe word it ever so slightly differently. It is that series of good decisions, but I would add that it's building off the hard work of the people before you.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All the great pavement designs in the world mean nothing if it's not in the plans when they let, right?
Amen.
And the best laid plans mean nothing if we don't have that producer that is going to deliver them, right? And it's that compounding work and the investment.
I like that.
In the end, I would add that all that hard work, you get through construction, we give it to maintenance, right? And if it's a heavy-duty pavement design, we'll use this as the example. They don't have to do a whole lot, but they do need to monitor it, right? They're going to be out there for years and years monitoring that pavement. And in the end, if everybody's done a good job, if everybody's done a quality job, that pavement will be resilient. We keep using this word resilient, and it is no more meaningful in any area of our operations than in our pavement, our single biggest asset across the state.
Okay.
So if we're all doing a good quality job, the pavement's going to be resilient, and our staff can spend less time boots on the ground on it, having to maintain it in danger.
And the people that are needing to use it it's got more uptime.
Exactly.
Right.
It's being used for its intended purpose.
Got
Amen.
it. Got it. All right, last question. King for the day, you get to change anything. What is it and why?
This is probably going to be an unpopular comment.
Fire away.
If I could change something, as a payment engineer, I would say instead of checking for density, I would probably check for modulus, because that's what we designed for. So
okay. That's been discussed. Okay.
Yeah. That's to me that would compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
What was designed is what it was.
Did we get what we designed?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a long road ahead of us.
We do. We do. I think the balanced mixed design effort is a step in the direction, but we're still doing lab tests. Eventually, getting out there and actually, that will be a big change. That will be a dramatic change. There's a lot of things have to happen for that to happen.
Right.
But what you said, it makes sense. This is what we designed. This is what we got. This is what the delta is one way or the other, and then we can know if it took that 30 million easels or 60 million easels or 120 million easels or whatever it is, load spectrum, whatever you're going to call it, did it carry the load? And then we've got that way of doing that.
Yeah.
It's good comment. Chris?
For me, king for a day,
Yep.
if I could snap my fingers.
Get you over 90?
That's if James Stevenson's watching, that's my answer. Absolutely. Get us over 90. No, when I think about this question, if I could snap my fingers and make it on from today moving forward to where our 256 maintenance sections around the state, I could give them every piece of equipment that they need, every yard of material that they need, every dollar they need, and every bit of expertise they need to go out there and do their jobs 100% safely, I'd snap my fingers and make it so.
Love it.
Today.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed this.
It was fun.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, that's all we got time for today. Thanks for attending. Just a reminder that these programs will be up on our YouTube channel and also on Audible and or Spotify and Apple Podcast. Remember, these are on the third Thursday of every month. You go to texasasphalt.org and click on events. You can click on Everyday Asphalt to sign up for these programs. So you'll get an email reminder and a link to the program when it comes up. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you again very much for being here. Y'all be safe out there and ever forward, everybody. Take care now.